Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, thanks for that, Rick. All of our guests today, including Ian Furness, standing by, brought to you by the Waddling Dog. Have I got it right?
No, it's Bayside.
As I told you 6 different times in the break, Bayside Resort is the read for today. Our friends in Parksville.
Now, did I not tell you moments ago
that you're in shambles?
It's Monday.
That I started my career in 1979.
Yeah.
That's 4 decades in the business. A little respect.
Back then, you didn't have any advertisements to be reading.
Yeah.
It was all carts and tapes.
$400 a month.
Reel-to-reel
up there.
Carts.
Yeah. Ian Furness can relate to that.
Yeah.
I wonder where he started his broadcast career.
I guarantee Furness gets all his reads right.
Oh, I guarantee he doesn't. And that's nothing against Ian. It's just because Ian does everything live.
There's a lot going on. I know.
Good
All
guy.
of our guests today, including Ian, unless he's hung up, are brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort, located oceanside in beautiful Parksville. The Bayside Resort is one of Vancouver Island's premier getaway spots. Call now to book your reservation and mention Donnie and Dolly for 10% off your nightly room rate. Book your island getaway today. BaysideOceanfrontResort.com or call 250-248-8333. Mariners sweep the Blue Jays, getting ready for the Astros. Seahawks lose. Kraken ready to start season number 2. And with that, we bring in from KJR Sports Radio in Seattle, our friend Ian Furness. How are you, sir?
Couldn't be better, Donnie. Couldn't be better.
Where'd you start your broadcast career?
Pulling cables at Como TV. And when I say pulling cables, like literally picking up cables, rolling up cables, triacs.
Wow.
Started carrying a BVU 110 3/4 inch recorder for a photographer. So when I say I started at ground zero, it was ground zero.
Did you work in a small town?
Yeah, well, I mean, I started as literally gripping in TV news, and then worked up as a assistant sports producer there. And my first on-air stuff was doing T-Birds hockey, like intermissions.
Okay. Oh, right.
On KVI, and then did those games, and then went. My small market was Tri-Cities with the Americans. I did some TV, and then obviously did the play-by-play there, and then on to Salt Lake, Portland, and here we go. So, I know all about half-inch, quarter-inch, three-quarter-inch beta tapes, carrying cables. And, Donnie and Rick, the young kids these days.
They don't. Young kids today.
Can you email all of that to Ryan, just so he knows?
They don't appreciate that.
They don't.
Know what? They all want to come in and host a show and anchor a sportscast, and they think, it's easy goings. And I say, you know what? Why don't you learn how to actually properly roll up an XLR cable, and then you can talk to me later, all right?
It's all about pulling cable.
Yeah.
Hey, tell us about...
It's all about pulling cable. That's what we do on Thanksgiving in Canada, right? We pull cable and watch the CFL.
And I know we talk about this all the time. Your mother's Canadian. Happy Canadian Thanksgiving to you. Tell us about Mariner fever in Seattle, Ian.
It's insane. It's crazy. It'd be nice if they wouldn't. Major League Baseball needs to figure it out. They'd be nice if they weren't playing all these games at noon or 1 o'clock West Coast time, because it is crazy. I mean, I know you guys have a massive audience watching you right now, but there are people that are working, and aren't able to watch live. They listen to your podcast like I do later. But for live sports, I don't understand it. When I bring this up, I get chastised by people. Well, that's how baseball does it. Well, there's three sports that have best of series: NHL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Yep.
Of the three, Major League Baseball is the only one that. Can you imagine if you were having Stanley Cup playoffs at noon? But I mean, so it's. I wouldn't say it's taken some away, but it's been hard because people are having you're trying to call in sick and and all that. So it has tempered it a little bit, but it's the place is like I've never seen before as far as the Mariners are concerned, and now they get a heck of a test against the Astros.
I know you retweeted Ryan and I in our digs at Toronto. Do baseball fans of Seattle know there's no shortage of Canadians or BCers at least who enjoyed the 7-run comeback?
Yes. No, we talked about that last week on our show that so-called Canada's team, and somebody brought that up, and I said, well, define Canada. I try to explain to people down here that it's not like if we see down here, we think it's brutal because everything's about the New York market, and maybe sometimes but it's like, you turn on ESPN and it's the Jets, the Giants, the Mets are out of the playoffs, but they'll be talked about for the next 3 weeks, right? And so I said, imagine that times 10 in Toronto. I said, people get sick of it. I said, no, there's a lot of people up there that are wise and smart and understand that the Blue Jays are the evil empire. And they are the enemy, and now Seattle has crushed them and taken them down. And so, maybe all the Blue Jay hooligans won't be coming down to T-Mobile next year when the Blue Jays come to town.
Ian, it gets a whole lot tougher now. Boy, you're going to be facing Houston, which best team in the American League. Look at their pitching, ERA 2.90. That's second best in the majors. So talk a little bit about the matchup, Seattle and Houston.
Rick, it's an interesting one because a lot of people had said, and like a lot of, I would say, smart baseball people, the analytics people, and that's baseball's had that, they've had that taken over by analytics. But they've said, you want Houston in a short series because then you can pitch your three hammer pitchers, and that gives you an advantage. Most rotations, as great as they are, don't truly go 5 deep, right? So a best of 7, you might have to use, you'll have to use 4, maybe even 5 starters. In a best of 5, you can probably get away with using just 3 starters. That is Seattle's strength. Gilbert goes today. He would have gone on Game 3 on Sunday. They haven't announced yet, but we're sure Castillo is going to go tomorrow on 1 day short rest. And then we'll see what happens on Saturday because Robbie Ray got lit up the other day in Toronto. And so there is a question about whether or not it would be him or George Kirby. Marco Gonzalez, their opening day starter, was left off the playoff roster for this series as well. But Seattle's pitching is its strength. The problem is, as you just mentioned, Houston's pitching is its strength, and they've got the best pitcher in baseball in Verlander. So it's a great matchup, though, 1-2, head-to-head. And, Seattle was 7-12 this year against those guys. They were 3-7 at Minute Maid Park in Houston. I think it sets up for a great series. I don't think it's going to be a sweep for Houston, and I think Seattle will press them. Might even go 5. I think I'd be shocked if it doesn't go at least 4. And Seattle can win this thing. They have an interesting vibe, guys. Like what happened on Saturday was unheard of. To trail 8-1 and to come back and win in that environment with those knuckleheads in Toronto going bananas, and I thought it was just it really shows the character of this team. They were able to battle back and chip away, and then found a way to get a win. And it kind of feels, I hate the whole team of destiny thing, but it feels like this team is. It does feel like this team is far from done right now.
Yep. Okay, listen, season 2 of the Kraken kicks off this week. 28th in goals last year, 29th on the power play, 30th on the penalty kill. Hey, that better improve, or Coach Dave Haxtell, he might not be there for year 3. What kind of progress do you see for the Kraken this year?
What was their save percentage in goals against?
Yeah, well, there's another one, too.
I mean, it was kind of a combination of everything. Sometimes when you're a bad hockey team, you're just bad at everything, and they're bad at everything, right? I mean, but I think that I like their roster up front. Boy, Shane Wright looks really good, guys. I mean, he's looked really good. Just fit right in, and looks like he's gonna. I think we've talked about this before. They've got their 1-2 centers. They got the 2 guys down the middle for years to come. I love Bjorkstrand. I loved him when he played in Portland. I thought that was just a phenomenal pickup by Seattle. It's fortunate move for them. Salary cap issues elsewhere, and so that's a great pickup. We'll see what Burakovsky is. I think that. I don't know if you guys would agree with me. I think that's kind of a big key. What can he bring? Because they brought another guy in from that organization last year that did 0, and so you hope that coming in here he can take that step up. Schwartz, if he's healthy, certainly McCann had a nice season last year. I mean, they can put together a pretty good Yanni Gourde. They can put together a pretty good top 6.5, I would say.
Yep.
Maybe even I think they're 3 lines strong. They're not elite strong, but they're 3 lines strong. Their defense is okay. I would have liked to have seen them keep Riker Evans up here. I was a little disappointed they didn't keep him up here. When you start getting down into to 5 and 6 in the bottom pair, I'm not so sure. I watched him play a couple times in the preseason in person. I liked what I saw, and I think get him up here. But I understand he's a young guy. Get him to Coachella. He can play there for a while, but I think he'll be up. Obviously it depends on Grubauer. I like Marty Jones as a backup. I think that's a solid backup, and I think that helps. I think I don't know Martin Jones. You guys do. North fan guy, right?
Yes.
North fan. Great guy. North fan. Yeah, all that.
Good guy. Really good guy.
North fan up there.
His dad worked. Sure. His dad was the manager at Rogers Arena, I think, Donnie.
Great guy.
In the shadow of the gondola of the mountain up there, right? Yeah, Marty Jones. I think if he's what I think he is, I think that'd be a good backup for Grubauer, and maybe even somebody, because they had some problems. They fired their goaltending coach. You guys talk about how important that is. So, how can he be? I think it's going to be a curious year. You mentioned it. I don't know how long that leash is on Haxtell. I don't know how long. I think it's interesting that they have two former head coaches now in their organization. Bilesma's down in Coachella Valley with the AHL team. And remember, this is the first year they've had their own AHL team. He's down there. And then obviously Lowry's up here, right? So so you have two former head coaches, but Bilesma's the one that I find interesting because, he's in the AHL. His resume speaks for itself, right? And then on top of that, and this is a very Kraken-like thing, their lead assistant coach down in Coachella Valley is a woman who's very highly thought of. And I'm not listening, but I just know how the Kraken work. And I think I can just see all the pieces fitting together. Bilesma's up, first to make history, and all those things. So I think, and Haxtell's, if I dare say it, man, I think he's almost a little hard in some ways. Doesn't really get the media. He doesn't get the media stuff. He's really challenging to work with in that sense. And you have to sell this hockey team, guys. Yeah, you really do. You have to sell this hockey team. And I don't know if he's the right guy to be the face of the organization. I really don't. And I think that's one of those little intangibles. I think both of you guys would agree with me on that, right? Yep. It's I look at what Boudreau's like for you guys.
Boudreau sells hockey up here, Ian. Yeah, he would have been a good choice down there.
Well, that's what just drives me nuts. I mean, here's a guy that I look at him up there in a market where you don't have to sell the product, right? You don't have to have a guy front and center, and yet the charisma, the humor,
personality,
the ability the connection with the fans that he has. The Bruce where it is, or us, whatever the chant. That's listen, all that stuff. But they need that here. Because right now, they are, to be honest with you, outside of Beniers, and I think he's got the ability to do so, and maybe even Shane Wright, he's got a pretty good personality too. They're kind of outside of Donato, not Donato, what's his face? Tanev. That stuff. I mean, outside of that, they need a face. And I don't know if Hack is that guy. I've been around Bilesma. I was around him in the IHL. I think he could be that guy.
There's something there.
So, yeah, I think there's something there, and I think you need that because you just mentioned it. They're starting tomorrow, and unlike a year ago when they were in Vegas to start the season and there was all kinds of hoopla and everyone's going nuts. Now I know the Mariners are happening and stuff. They're starting tomorrow. Who knew?
Quiet.
Yeah. Who knew? Yeah. So
we didn't have time to talk about the Seahawks. Let's sum it up this way. Their defense is terrible.
Horrible.
Worst in the league right now.
Yeah, is Farhan listening right now? If he is, you can only have there's two of the worst defenses in the entire United States of America, and they both reside in Seattle. One is the Seattle Seahawks, and the other is the University of Washington Huskies.
We'll bring that up with him.
Yeah. So you bring that up with Farhan, all right? You'll let him know that I said yo. So and by the way, I do not get all my reads correct. I do not.
So producer, I have company.
Any producer will tell you that. Yeah, it's just, Ryan, someday you're going to sit in that big chair and you're going to understand the heavy lifting and the burden that it is to be us.
He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it.
And proof of that is somewhere on a 3/4 inch tape.
Yeah.
As we go deep into broadcast lingo.
Do you have those in the garage like I do?
I think I transferred all the 3/4 inch, and this is we're talking broadcasting stuff here that people might not get. I think I transferred it all over to 1/2 inch. I do have 1/2 inch tape.
Yeah.
My wife hates me. Our garage is filled with cassette tapes, 3/4 inch tapes, painted tapes, and 1/2 inch tapes. Yeah.
They're so old that the tape includes sportscast of me with hair, so they're really old.
That wasn't even me saying that.
I know.
Or Ryan.
Trust me, I hear about it all the time. Ian, thanks for this.
See you, fellas.
Yeah, I should be wearing a hat.